You're being sued for infidelity and damages." When I told him that my husband had passed away, a man claiming to be a lawyer came to my house. It seems that I'm being sued for something I don't remember doing. But the person who filed the suit no longer exists. I'm feeling very uneasy and shaken up by this whole ordeal. The lawyer said, "You must be Maria. You're being sued for infidelity and damages. Your husband is the one who filed the suit. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about." At that moment, I thought the man was a fraudster trying to scam me out of my money. So I told him, "I'm sorry, but I don't know what you're talking about." I tried to send him away, but the lawyer refused to leave. He told me, "Your husband is the one who filed the lawsuit. It's in your best interest to just admit it and settle the matter now. If we have to fight this in court, you'll end up losing a lot of money." He tried to convince me like that. I got scared and asked him, "Show me some proof that you really are a lawyer." He showed me his badge on his lapel. But even then, I wasn't sure if he was really a lawyer or not. So I just told him again, "I'm really sorry, but I have no idea what you're talking about. Would you leave?" Then he responded, "I showed you evidence that I am a real lawyer. How about you admit your misdeeds already?" The lawyer stubbornly refused to leave, so I seriously considered calling the police. But then the lawyer mentioned my husband's name and asked, "He is your husband, right?" I replied, "Yes, there is no mistake, that is my husband's name. But it is impossible for him to sue me because he's already..." When I said that much, the lawyer spoke calmly and said, "If there is a reason, would you like to tell me? I'm not a debt collector, so I will listen to your story." So I decided to tell the truth. He passed away in an accident a few years ago, so it's impossible for him to sue me. The lawyer was silent for a moment after hearing my words. I didn't really think about who sued me. I could only think that this lawyer was lying. I mean, who would do such a horrible thing? I don't remember doing anything to make anyone hate me. And surprisingly, the lawyer denied the fact that my husband had passed away. "No, that's ridiculous. You're going too far making up stories. Your husband did indeed ask us for help. I've met him in person, and I heard that you have a habit of lying, so I can easily tell when you're telling such unbelievable lies." He said that to me, but I don't have a habit of lying. Besides, he's the only one who asked me to speak up if there was anything he needed to know, so I did. I felt sad to be called a liar, and since he talked as if my husband was really alive, it made me feel even worse. I wanted him to leave quickly, so I opened all the windows in the house to create an escape route, then let the lawyer in. I guided him to the family altar to show him my husband's portrait. I thought that if he saw it, he would believe me, but the lawyer said this when he saw the portrait. "Huh? He's not your husband, is he? The person who hired me is someone else. Please stop lying. We won't get anywhere like this." I was even more confused and didn't understand what he was saying. It made me even more perplexed since I had no idea who was pretending to be my husband and why. I was scared and wondered if someone was holding a grudge against me without my knowledge. Anyway, I didn't back down from my position. He is my husband. There was a news article about his accident, so please look it up if you need to. I'll give you the date. The lawyer finally said, "I understand. I'll go back and double check." I felt relieved when he said that. "However, if you agree today, we can offer you a good settlement. Are you sure you want to turn me away?" he asked, insisting. "I can't agree to a settlement or anything else since my husband is no longer here. There's nothing I can do. I think it would be better for you to investigate the person who sued me," I told him. The lawyer looked at me with a skeptical expression, which was understandable since he must have doubted my honesty. He laughed, but I've been feeling uneasy since then. Afterwards, I was so scared that I talked to my mother about it. When I told her what had happened, my mother also thought it might be a scam or something. Knowing my personality, my mother didn't think I could have made someone hate me. So we discussed it and decided to consult the police for the time being. But when I was about to make the call, I remembered the existence of a certain person. I thought that person might be the one who sued me, so I decided not to consult the police. When I told my mother about the person who came to mind, she seemed to be a bit at a loss and understood the situation. But it's not like that person is holding a grudge against me. The more likely scenario is that I was sued because the person is short on money, and that person in question is actually my real brother. My brother has always been a troublemaker since he was young. A few years ago, he was disowned by our parents, and I had not been in contact with him ever since. But I couldn't imagine that he was leading a decent life. When I mentioned my brother's name to my mother, she had a shocked expression on her face, and we started to suspect him. When I was wondering whether to ask my brother directly, that lawyer came to my house again. "It's been a while since I came here. Have you had any change of heart? Your husband wants to settle as soon as possible," he said. So I showed the lawyer a picture of my brother and asked, "Is he the one who's suing me?" As I handed it over, the lawyer gave me a look that said, "What's the point?" and replied, "Yes, he is the one who's suing you. There's no mistake about it. So you admit that you lied about him being gone? Whose portrait was that?" That's how he replied. So I told him that he was my brother. I was worried that he might not believe me because he thinks I lie. So when I told him the truth, I connected a 3-way call with my mother to have a conversation together. When the lawyer learned the truth, he was clearly flustered. "Okay then, is he really not your husband but your brother?" I confirmed it many times with my mother that he is indeed my brother. "I apologize for causing you discomfort due to my misunderstanding. I saw your brother's identification card, and it did have your husband's name on it, so I just assumed that you were lying." Both my mother and I were shocked by what the lawyer said. To think that he would falsify his identification card for money. Moreover, my brother knew that my husband had passed away, yet he still committed such a despicable fraud. I already disliked my brother, but now I truly despised him. I was incredibly shocked and equally angry. Afterwards, the 3 of us discussed and decided to have a talk with my brother in person on a different day. I didn't really want to see his face after what he did to us, but I had to confront him directly to ease my anger. It had been a few years since I last saw him, so I was a little nervous. We agreed to have the lawyer help ensure that my brother would come. I asked the lawyer to contact us when my brother contacted him as usual. So now we're just waiting for the call. I'm feeling really unsettled. The lawyer apologized many times. In a way, he was also a victim of the scam, so we decided to forgive him. Holding on to too much resentment is exhausting after all. Afterwards, the lawyer contacted us, and my mother and I went to his office. When we opened the door, my brother was there. He looked more haggard than he did back then. He also seemed somehow weak. As soon as our eyes met, he froze. "Huh? Maria? Mom?" He looked like he didn't believe what he was seeing. I was told from the lawyer that my brother had asked him to make sure that he didn't have to see us. That's why I think he was quite surprised. "Long time no see, Miguel." When I called out to him like that, he seemed to understand everything. "I'm sorry. I guess you already know everything." Yeah, we already know everything. The lawyer knows the truth too. That's why he contacted me and Mom like this. My brother's face turned pale at my words. Mom was beside me, shaking with anger. "As if disowning you wasn't enough! You went this far? How much trouble do you want to cause your family? And you got a lawyer involved too? You should be ashamed of yourself!" she shouted at him. I watched the scene unfold, but the lawyer intervened to mediate. "I understand your anger, but since we're all here, let's talk calmly." The talk went more smoothly with a third party involved. Of course, I was also angry with Miguel. The fact was that I felt a little sorry for him when I saw him looking worn out. But it was my brother who did something that warranted disownment, so I didn't defend him. After calming my mother down a little and getting her to sit down, we started talking. Miguel was the first to break the silence. "I already said this earlier, but I'm really sorry. I found a job after I was kicked out of the house, but I was recently laid off due to the bad economy. I got scared thinking I might become homeless. I wanted money. I had been living hand to mouth, so I didn't have any savings. As he started making excuses like that, I asked him, "Don't you think pretending to be my deceased husband is going too far? Why didn't you contact us before doing something like this?" It seemed like my mother was also concerned about the same thing as me, as she said, "That's right. Even if you had reached us, I don't know if we would have helped you, but you shouldn't have done something to hurt your sister like this." She was angry again while saying that. Although my brother was nervous under my mother's pressure, he replied, "I thought you wouldn't listen to me even if I contacted you guys. I thought sending a lawyer out of the blue to go see Maria would be more effective." I was disappointed with this foolish idea and asked him, "By the way, how did you pay for the lawyer?" He answered, "I promised to pay with the money I got from you as compensation, but if I couldn't get compensation, I planned to back out." The lawyer looked at him with an expression of disbelief at his frank response. "No matter what the reason, there are things you should never do," my mother said, expressing the same sentiment. The lawyer and I completely agreed. Miguel seemed to be aware of this also. "I knew that in my head, but I didn't want to become homeless, and I couldn't find a job at all. I was really struggling, and didn't have anyone to rely on. That's why I ended up thinking about doing something like this." I wasn't sure if my brother was regretting his actions or trying to make excuses, but that's what he said. Then my mother spoke up. "Anyway, don't bother your sister anymore, and don't come near me or your father. You were disowned because you did nothing but bad things like this. Apologizing a little won't make your crime disappear. I can't deal with you anymore." With those words, she was so angry that there was nothing more to say. I understood how she felt. Before she disowned him, our mother had gone through a lot of unpleasant experiences because of my brother. She had been called to the police station in the middle of the night, been talked about behind her back by neighbors, and had rumors spread about her at work. She had finally been able to live a quiet life after cutting ties with him, so she couldn't forgive him for bothering me. After disowning Miguel, my mother's mental state had become much better, and my father and I were relieved. So we were worried and uneasy when Miguel returned. Although I was the biggest victim in this case, I was more concerned about my mother. That's why I supported her decision to disown him again, and gave him a signal with my eyes that said, "Don't make any more excuses." My brother seemed to have understood that. "Anyway, I'm really sorry about what I did. I won't go near Maria or anyone else again. It's my fault that I ended up like this, and I'll disappear again, so please don't worry." My brother said this and tried to leave with his backpack. I said just one thing to him. "If you ever want to see our family again, come back after rehabilitating yourself. I'm not saying I'll be waiting for you, but I hope you'll do your best." My brother stopped walking for a moment when he heard my words, but he didn't turn back and left the office. After that, my mother and I apologized to the lawyer, and the lawyer apologized to me for making me feel bad. Then, my mother and I went home to where my father had returned from work. He listened to the whole story and had a troubled look on his face. "Don't worry about me. Take care of Mom." That's all I said, and I went back to my own house. That's the whole story of this incident. It doesn't seem like we found a fundamental solution, but we've done everything we can for now. I'm a little worried about my brother, but I want to go back to my own life.